So, I've got kind of a weird way to start this talk about habits because I think it's important to kind of understand the fundamentals, because I'm not going to give you a list of healthy habits. You want a list of healthy habits? Google them, because they're really boring, honestly. Like, there's no sexy, healthy habit out there that everybody wants to do. And so I want to just give you some mechanics and some ways to think about habits. And interestingly, I've been doing a tremendous amount of research on them for something that we're in the middle of right now. And I'm going to tell you a story about habits. And as I tell the story, you got to take it with a grain of salt. Okay. And the other thing that I want to say about habits, even though I'm going to keep using the word practice, practice new habits. The reason why habits are so important, everybody, is because based on research, this is from a study that was published a couple of years ago, that 40% of your behavior are what we call habits. Habits, that's just another word for patterns, okay? And so I'm going to give you some examples of habits that you might not even think about are a habit, okay? And a pattern or a habit is simply a behavior pattern. We call them a loop, and I'm going to explain why. It's a behavior pattern that is stored in the subconscious part of the brain. You'll also often hear people talk about the basal ganglia. And the reason why you have habits is because your brain loves shortcuts. See, everything that your brain is doing and your nervous system is doing, we've talked a lot about this in other trainings, but everything that your brain and your nervous system is doing, it requires fuel. Just like your car requires fuel for you to be able to go from where you are right now to the grocery store, that's how it runs. Your brain requires fuel. And your brain has figured out ways to maximize the fuel and to be more efficient. And the way that your brain is more efficient is it learns habits and patterns. And when you have a habit or a pattern that you have memorized because you've repeated it so many times, it takes less fuel for your brain to reflexively do that pattern than doing something new. And I'll give you an example. This is something you can test out later today or tomorrow. I want you to think about like a place that you often bike or drive to. Maybe it's a grocery store, maybe it's work, maybe it's school, maybe it's a friend's house. Tomorrow, I want you to consciously drive an entirely new and different and longer way. And you will notice something. You will notice that your brain fights you. You will notice that your brain is annoyed. And you will notice that it takes more effort for you to think about where you're headed. Because the way that you commute to work or school or the grocery store, you have repeated that so many times. It is now a pattern or a habit loop stored in your brain. That's why often you get to places you always drive and you're like, oh my God, who drove the car? Because you don't remember driving the car because your brain was in the background making decisions that have already been automated. So the reason why that happens, just in summary, is because if you had to use your prefrontal cortex and focus on every aspect and every decision, from how you pick up the toothbrush to how you hold a pencil to all that stuff, you literally would need to take a nap by 1 o'clock in the afternoon. You wouldn't be able to process that much new information. And so it's a way for your brain to take a break. It learns patterns, automates behaviors. So let me give you some examples of some habits you might not think about. Picture yourself sitting at the wheel of a car and you put the car in reverse. Which shoulder do you look over as you're backing up? It's always the same one, isn't it? And depending upon where you live in the world, it's one side or the other. It's always the same. You don't even think about it, do you? That right there is a habit. That is a reflexive action and pattern that you do without even thinking. Now think about your evening routine. Do you lock the door every night at home? Do you have a pattern or habit of things that you just go through in your house, reflect? You don't even think about it, right? You're not like, oh, it's time to lock the door. Well, where is the door? I can't remember how to do that. I better force it. No, you just get up, you walk to click the lock, and it's just a pattern that you do that is triggered by the end of the night. Here's the second thing I want you to know about patterns. Patterns repeat. Patterns repeat. If you don't interrupt a pattern and replace it with something else, the pattern will repeat forever. So learning new behaviors and learning new habits is a lot more about spotting the things that you don't want to do anymore and interrupting them, and then replacing those old patterns with new patterns. And I believe that when you start to feel broken or stuck in your life, you're not broken. You have a pattern from your past that makes you feel broken based on where you want to go now. And I also believe that when you feel stuck in life, you're not actually stuck. You're just stuck repeating these old patterns. And until you catch them and you interrupt them, which is where the 5-second rule comes in, there's nothing more powerful to help you interrupt an old pattern than counting backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, to interrupt the loop. But then you have to replace it with something else. Because if you don't replace the pattern, what's rule number 1 about patterns? Patterns repeat. So you can't just break a habit. Technically, you don't break a habit. Technically, you replace it with something else. I want to start with a definition of fulfillment, because this sort of blew my mind a little bit. Fulfillment is when you're satisfied because you are fully developing your deepest desires and your character. Fulfillment's very different than happiness, everybody. Happiness comes and goes. Happiness is fleeting. Happiness is like the waves in an ocean, or the waves on Lake Michigan, the Great Lakes here in the United States, which is where I grew up, on Lake Michigan. The waves, they come and they go, right? That's happiness. It comes and it goes. It rolls in and out of your life. And oftentimes it feels like it's out of your control. Fulfillment is the ocean or the Great Lakes itself. Fulfillment is something way deeper. And fulfillment is about integrity and meaning. And the fact that when you have integrity and meaning in your life, you are fulfilled, you are satisfied, because you are fulfilling and fully developing your deepest desires and your character. And this is important. And I'm going to really hammer these words around meaning and, more importantly, integrity. If I had to pick one word that was important when it comes to you deepening your level of fulfillment with your whole life, the word is integrity. Now, this was brand new to me. You know, I always thought about fulfillment like, oh, find your joy, find your passion, find your purpose. Like, then you'll be fulfilled. Do things that you love, you'll be fulfilled. It actually has more to do with integrity, which is really cool. And, you know, when I explain why integrity is so important, it's also going to illuminate all the places in your life where you're not fulfilled, because I guarantee you, the places in your life where you're missing fulfillment are also lacking personal integrity. You're not operating consistently with what you care about. You're not operating with integrity in terms of your values. You're not spending your time, your energy, and your resources on what truly aligns with you from an integrity standpoint. And so that's why we're going to continue to hammer this word integrity. Okay. And that's great, because when you start to think about cultivating personal integrity and how that translates to more fulfillment in your life, it's going to make that fulfillment something that you can control. It's going to make it deeply personal. It's going to make it something that you can move the needle on. It puts the locus of control within your reach. Let me talk about the two mistakes that everybody makes, okay, when it comes to fulfillment. And this is why fulfillment in some areas of your life are out of reach right now. The number one mistake that we make, if you're struggling with fulfillment in any area of your life, is that you're not living according to your own values. You know, I think we've all gone through those periods of our lives where we are drinking too much, or we're spending too much money, or we're hanging out with the wrong people, or we're making unhealthy choices. And you know deep down inside that this is not what you want to be doing. It's not what you should be doing. But because you are not living based on your own values, you don't respect yourself. There's no way you are going to live a fulfilled life if at the base level, you don't respect the choices that you're making. So can you identify an area of your life right now, either in the chat or in the journal function in the app, an area of your life where you are not living according to your own values? I see health coming up for people. I'm sure if you think about how you're spending your money or whether or not you're saving money, you're not aligned with your values. Maybe you're doing work. I see productivity. I see exercise. So if you're not living according to your own values, this is one reason why you're not going to be fulfilled in your life. The second thing is that you spend your time and your resources on things that actually don't matter to you. You're spending your time and your resources on things that don't matter to you at the deepest level. These are the two big mistakes that we all make. And the good news here is that these are mistakes that you can easily identify, that you can address. And when you do, you take control back and you will amp up the level of fulfillment that you feel. I'm going to say this again. Fulfillment is not the same thing as happiness. Fulfillment is meaning and integrity. And that's why habit number one and building a foundation is about values, because you will only find fulfillment, true, lasting, deep fulfillment, everybody, if you are following your values like a compass, not your mood. You got to follow your values and let that be your compass. That's how you build the proper foundation. And so what does that mean? What does that mean, everybody? Well, it means you got to figure out what matters to you, okay? And then you must develop the simple discipline to spend your time and energy on things, people, experiences that align with what matters to you. Living with integrity to what matters to you is the secret of fulfillment. And I think, I've alluded to this earlier, but, I can think about times in my life when either what I was doing for work or what I was doing with my free time did not align with my values. And so I'm going to tell you a quick story about a time in my life, because you know what it feels like. You know what it feels like. How many of you know that you're living out of integrity with your core values right now in some area of your life? Yeah, you know what it feels like. It can feel kind of irritating, like there's a rock in your shoe, and every step you take, there's this little thing in your shoe and it just bothers you, but you never stop to untie your shoelaces and dig the rock out and retie your shoes. You just kind of live with this grinding irritation. Or you can be so out of integrity with your values that you literally don't even feel like you know yourself anymore. And you may find yourself anywhere on that scale. I know I certainly have in my life. I have found myself feeling that kind of rock in the shoe type of integrity when it comes to eating, when it comes to kind of going out and spending time doing things with either people or experiences that I don't really care about, but I'm just kind of going. And I can think about the other end of the spectrum, you guys. And, this isn't something I'm proud to admit, but when I was in high school, when I was in college, when I was in law school, one of the things that I did that was completely at odds with my values was when I knew it was time to break up with somebody. Based on childhood trauma, anxiety, all kinds of issues, immaturity, lack of therapy, I would literally cheat on my current boyfriend and find a new person to anchor myself to as a way to exit a relationship. Now, this is not something I'm proud to admit to you, but what I can tell you is this was so against my values of integrity. It was so against my values of relationship, of connection, of being powerful in my life. But I was so lost that I didn't even recognize myself. And you may be in that sort of area in your life right now, in some area of your life too. And so it's important to understand whether you have a rock in the shoe or you are doing something that is so out of bounds for even you that you no longer recognize yourself, recognizing that there is this lack of alignment, this schism that doesn't feel right. I love to think about reinventing some aspect of your life like a road trip, okay? Your whole life is one gigantic road trip. It has a beginning. You're going to cover a ton of ground. None of us are going to take the exact same route over the course of our lifetime. And the interesting thing is that we all end in the same place, right? At some point, this amazing road trip is going to end. And so I want you to think about the mile marker that you're on right now in your life. And for me, as much as it makes me go like, to say this, I'm at mile marker 53. And so I want you to put in the comments wherever you're watching, what mile marker are you at right now? And the reason why it's important for you to kind of put a mile marker down is because it's important to ground a conversation around reinvention in time and space. And if you're at mile marker that's in the 20s, the things that you might want to be reinventing could be really different than what I want to reinvent. I was asking a bunch of the amazing folks that work for me today, actually, about this topic, because when I think about reinvention, I tend to think about career because of where I'm at in my life. But in your 20s, I was surprised by how many of the amazing people that work for me in their 20s said, well, I'm really thinking about where I want to live. Do I want to stay where I am? Do I want to change it up? Do I want to try something different? Some of the folks that work for me at mile markers in their 30s were like, I'm thinking a lot about family. I'm thinking a lot about that experience. When you start to get into the 40s, it tends to focus back on career. And for me, when I think about being 53 and I think about all of the miles that I have to still cover, I think about fulfillment. I think about how do I want these next legs of the journey to feel, and what changes do I need to make now in order to have the road ahead be as fulfilling and as fun and as freeing as it can possibly be. Because I'll tell you what, the 20s through the freaking 50s have been a grind. I mean, I've been wildly successful, but I had a friend of mine recently say, I think the more successful that you get, Mel, the more miserable you are, because your business life isn't working for where you are on this leg of the journey. And so now that you've got your mile marker down, I want you to think about what is just one aspect of your life. Let's not try to blow up your whole life. That's a big mistake that people make too. But what's one aspect of your life that if you think about this leg of the journey on the road trip of life, what is one aspect of your life that you want to think about specifically as we have this conversation? So for me personally, where I want to focus the conversation around reinvention, it is all in the area of my business. Brendan knows this. He's had a front row seat to the last 2 years. And I have been wildly successful as a motivational speaker in the corporate circuit. I have been wildly successful partnering with Audible. I have been wildly successful with the 2 audiobooks that I have produced. And my business model does not make me happy anymore because it requires me to have to show up physically in order for us to be making money. And that is not a smart business model, particularly when you're in your 50s. But honestly, it's not the greatest business model in any event, especially if you're going to be in the content business. And so I have made a decision based on a lot of soul searching and making a lot of mistakes and then following the advice that I'm about to give you to get really clear about what I wanted and why, how long it was going to take. And I, with that clarity, was able to pivot and make a turn on the road that I was on. And so instead of being in the business of showing up and talking on stages and partnering with large corporations to create projects for them, we are pivoting and reorganizing the entire business around a massive podcast launch that's going to happen later this year, and a business that is focused on us creating content for ourselves and us becoming experts in online marketing. And I'll tell you something, when you get really clear about where you are and where you want to go, something interesting happens. When you have that level of clarity, all of the stuff that's not aligned with where you want to go suddenly rises to the surface. And this is what I'm talking about when I say reinvention can be a very rough road, because reinventing your life for real is about getting into alignment with where your heart is calling you to go. And so I'm going to tell you, before we walk through these mistakes, as you get clearer and clearer and clearer, and you start approaching reinvention from a place of alignment and a place of heading in the right direction and asking the right questions and thinking about things in a longer term and about what really matters to you, you will hit all these bumps because there's a lot about your current life that is not aligned with where you truly want to go. And that's one of the major reasons why it's been hard for you to reinvent yourself, because you're clinging to things that are familiar, even though the things that you're clinging to are not going to be part of the journey that you're taking in this next leg. Okay. And that's okay. It doesn't mean that the things that you're going to say goodbye to, or the people that you're going to spend less time with, or the parts of your business that you're no longer going to engage in, doesn't mean those things are bad. It just means that's baggage. Those are people that you're just not taking on the next leg of the journey. That's it. So I'm in the middle of this, and what I want to talk about are what are the mistakes that everybody makes. So if you continue to use the metaphor that I'm using, which is that your life is one big long road trip, there are going to be lots of twists and turns. And sometimes life throws a detour right at you. The pandemic's been a huge one. It's probably made a lot of you question, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? What do I actually value? Is my current life aligned with the things that I value? I'm sure you learned a ton of stuff about what you value, having survived these last 2 years. And that's really important, because the first mistake that everybody makes is you jump right into it and you think that you can create a map to where you're going when you don't even know where the hell you are right now. You have to slow down before you can go fast. And I know I've talked about this in a lot of my other trainings because it's true. When it comes to making a map, which is what you need to go from point A to point B, to go from mile 53 to mile 54, in order to create that map, you must know where you're starting from. It is mathematically impossible to give somebody directions to a new location if we don't know where you are right now. And too often, the biggest mistake that you make is that you think that if you know the direction that you're headed in, that you can just point out where you want to go and point your life in that direction and zoom. And I will tell you what's going to happen. If you don't hit the brakes right now and look around and look within and understand where you are right now, what's working, what's not working, you will literally take the baggage that you have and the people that aren't aligned with where you're going, and you will drag them right with you. And you will continue to make the same mistakes, and you will not achieve what you're meant to achieve. So you got to stop right now, and you got to take some time to truly unpack, where am I? Okay, at this moment, like, where am I? What do I know about myself? Like, if you think about even just the last year, everybody, what were the highs of the last year? What were the lows? What have you learned about yourself? What are the mistakes you don't want to repeat? What are you willing to work for? And what is it that you're never going to do again? So one of the first things that I had to do, for example, in reinventing my life in terms of the career and completely reorganizing my business, reimagining everything, is I had to set up rules for myself so that I knew, based on the wisdom of where I am, I knew that I wouldn't take that baggage with me into the future. Like, I'm very clear. I'm going to launch and dominate in the podcast market. I'm going to own all my own content. I am going to produce it all in-house. I am very clear about what's happening. But what I had to do is stop, and I had to go, well, where am I right now? And where I was right then when I asked that question was, I was exhausted. I was traveling too much. I was looking at a calendar where I had commitments, you guys, for 9 months to other people, which literally meant I had no time to work on the thing that I wanted to do. And I guarantee you got commitments too. When you look ahead, commitments from the old life, commitments from where you are. And so I had to come up with a set of rules that aligned with where I wanted to get to. And those rules sounded like this. And I'm just going to talk in the context of the speaking business. I no longer accept speeches on Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, or Mondays, period. I no longer speak in locations where I have to take a connecting flight, period. I no longer speak anywhere that requires me to stay somewhere more than one night. I need to be able to go in and get out. Because stopping and looking backwards and going, what hasn't worked? What hasn't worked is I've been exhausted. I've been traveling. It's impossible to make a pivot. If, like me, where my business was, is Mel's catching a plane, Mel's on that stage, Mel's over there, Mel's running to do this. And I realized if I was serious about reinventing my life, I needed to put ground rules in place right now that aligned with what I wanted instead of what I knew. I'm going to talk about my philosophy about leadership, because when I hear the word leadership, I think about influence. So let's first talk about, what does the word influence actually mean? Okay. So influence is the power that you have to affect the actions, behaviors, and opinions of other people. In short, it means you have the influence to move somebody from point A to point B. Now, there are two kinds of influence that all leaders have. Internal influence, and that's the power that you have over yourself. And in my opinion, this type of influence is the single most important type of influence to practice and cultivate that will impact your ability to impact others. Internal influence is your ability to move yourself from point A to point B. Because one of the things about being a great leader is knowing how to be flexible, knowing how to change, knowing how to pivot, knowing how to grow. And that means you've got to have influence over yourself. The other type of influence is external influence. And that is your ability to move other people from point A to point B. You know, we all have had these experiences, right, where we've been around other leaders. We've been around people that have had that implied influence, right? Because of their position, because of their title. But I guarantee you've had the experience where you've had to work for or been around another leader, but they have not been that influential on you. They were either a jerk or a micromanager, or they showed up in a way that made you feel awful. You have had that experience. And one of the reasons why I want to hammer home this point, that it doesn't matter who you are, where you are, what you do. Leadership, the best kind of leadership and the most powerful kind of influence is the type that's earned. It has nothing to do with your position. It has nothing to do with your title. It has everything to do with how you show up and the way in which you treat other people. I want you to understand that the most important aspect of raising your influence and of becoming a better and a more influential leader is deciding that you want to be and claiming that leadership role in your life. When you look at leadership, and Brendan's right, it's super important that you're a student your whole life, that leadership is something that you should study. When you start to look into leadership, you're going to see that there's all kinds of books, there's all kinds of philosophies. There are servant-based leaders, there are transformational leaders, there are situational leaders, there are people who are authoritarian leaders. There's a bazillion different leadership styles. Well, what I want you to think about is, what kind of leader do you want to be? And there are two questions that I think are important for you to ask yourself. And the reason why it's important for you to ask yourself these two questions is because they will give you a roadmap that maps to your values and maps to your goals and maps to who you are in terms of cultivating a leadership style. Okay. So here are the two questions. Number one, when you leave a room, what do you want people to say about you? And these are really important, and I'm going to explain why. So for me, when I leave a room, what do I want people to say about me? Oh my gosh, she's authentic, she's smart, she's inspiring, she's fun. I want to work with her. I love her. Like, that's the kind of vibe. Those are the adjectives. And it's important for you to answer that question authentically for you. What do you want people to say about you when you leave a room? Because to me, embedded in that description is the roadmap to the type of leader that you want to be. And I guarantee you, what Brendan would say in answer to that question is different than what I would say. And it's different than what you would say. I see motivating, caring, informative, inspiring, happy, and confident. These are really important words for you to think about. And here's why. Once you answer that question, what do you want people to say about you when you leave a room? You now have this roadmap, as I've mentioned, and you can use a very powerful body of research called behavioral activation therapy, BAT. The shorthand for BAT, I talk about it a lot in my training, is act like the person you want to become. It sounds supremely stupid and simple. Everything I talk about is. And oftentimes the greatest change always comes from the simple, obvious stuff. If you want people to say that you are inspiring, happy, and confident, or you are fun, positive, and kind, act like that person. Research shows that simply setting an intention at the beginning of the day about who you want to be today, what are those words you want people to say about you when you leave the room? Wow, that Mel Robbins, she is so authentic. She is just herself. She is so smart. She is so inspiring. She's so fun to be. I really want to work with her. That is critical for you to write down. Now let's talk about the second one. Okay, because this is going to measure the impact that you want to make. Okay, so the first one is sort of giving you the roadmap to acting like the kind of leader, the sort of leadership style. Now we're going to talk about impact, and that is, how do you want people to feel when they're around you? See, the first question was about you and your reputation. The second one is about the impact that you make in people. how you're perceived. For me, I want people to leave feeling empowered, seen, and inspired. And if I had to ask, like do another one, it would be energized and appreciated. So what are the words that describe how you want people to feel when they are around you? You see, another metaphor, and I love metaphors too, is leadership and influence is all about action and intention. And a metaphor that I like to think about when I think about leadership and influence is, we have this awesome dog named YOLO. He is literally one of the greatest things that's ever happened to me. He's 2 years old, so he's just coming out of the puppy stage. He's an Australian Shepherd. And we've had lots of dogs in our life, and we have this awesome cat named Mr. Noodle. They're all over my Instagram stories if you follow me online. But he is just joyous. When I wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning to this dog panting back and forth in the bedroom because he wants to go outside, he's so excited. The second he hears me stir, he's like up on the bed. He's super excited. And I take him for a walk every morning, and we're down vacationing this month. And we're right by the ocean. And one of the greatest things that I do every morning is I walk the dog. And so I throw the ball and he runs in and out of the ocean. And, if you've ever been around a dog and a dog runs into the ocean and runs down the sand and then runs back into the ocean, what does a dog do when they're wet? They like shake, right? Shake. And then sand and ocean water and seaweed and everything that's on the dog goes spraying off in every direction. It gets all over everything. Your leadership and influence style is the exact same way. You are sprinkling it and spreading it everywhere you go. And so it's so important for you to answer these questions. How do you want people to feel when they're around you? Because that is the ocean and the sand and everything that shakes off you as you're moving around through your day-to-day life. And if you want to make sure that people feel, and I see this, playful, at peace, empowered, good, you need to be intentional about causing that in people. First, I want to start off by sharing something. This morning, I put a little poll up on Instagram, and I've got more than 2 million people that follow me at this point. And I put a poll up several hours ago, and the poll simply said, feeling stuck right now? And 89% of people said yes. I'm not surprised by that. And the reason why I'm not surprised is because whenever somebody says, I feel stuck, what I hear that is a human being who feels disconnected from passion and purpose. And so what I'm going to cover today is I want to cover common mistakes that everybody makes. I have made these mistakes. The people that I love make these mistakes. And I think when you unpack the mistakes that you're making, it's easy to then do a few simple things to start moving in the right direction. Mistake number one is that you think passion and purpose are the same thing. I hear those two words thrown around so much and swapped in and out of sentences that I need to say it is a major mistake to think that passion and purpose are the same thing, because the fact is they're completely different. And the other fact is you need both passion and purpose in order to live an incredible life that you deserve to live. So let me unpack my simple way of thinking about passion versus purpose. So passion is something you feel. I think about passion as another word for energy. Passion is something you feel. Purpose, on the other hand, is something you do. Purpose is something you do. I'm going to distinguish passion and purpose at a secondary level. You ready? So passion is something you feel. Passion describes the energy that you feel. And the other cool thing about passion is for you. Passion is simply anything that makes you feel more energized in life. I'll give you an example. And I want you to think about what is something that brings passion into your life. And as you think of the thing that brings passion into your life, share it. Because when you share something that you're thinking, it always ignites and empowers and inspires somebody else that's watching this too. So for example, passion is for me. Passion is what I feel. Passion is the stuff that brings energy into my life. So here's my passion. Ready? I love to garden. I love to walk into a flower store. I love to savor a fabulous cup of coffee. I love and am passionate about watching stand-up comedy. I am passionate about hiking. I am passionate about, I'm actually passionate about the polar plunge challenge and doing cold exposure therapy. I'm passionate about getting together with our kids. I'm passionate about walks on the beach. I am energized by making plans to go somewhere. I am energized by cooking. All of these things that I'm listing are things that I do or things that I think about that infuse me with this energy. That's what passion is. And you need that in order to live an awesome life. And passion is so simple to bring into your life because passion is literally just about getting intentional, about filling your time with things that bring you energy. It kind of makes sense, right? That's all the passion is. And now that you understand this simple idea of what passion is, that it's something you feel, it's for you, it brings energy into your life. You now understand why people say, "Oh, I'm living my passion." I would never use that sentence because I think the accurate thing is I feel passionate about my work as a doctor. What they're saying when somebody says that is they're saying, I feel energized by my work. And if you are one of the 89% of people that feel stuck right now, here's what I know. If you look at your day-to-day and your week-to-week life, you are not doing anything that naturally brings energy into your life, positive energy. And a simple way to flip the switch and bring more passion into your life is to become intentional about making time to do the things. Like Marianne, she's passionate about running, designing, chilling with her friends, connecting with people, helping connect people in business, nature, sunrises, so many things. Even writing the things, did you guys notice? Even writing down what brings energy into your life actually makes you feel more energized. So that's what passion is. Purpose is something you do, and purpose is what you do for the world. Purpose is this anchor that you attach yourself to. And it is the thing that you do for the world. It's how you show up for other people. It is the reason why you're doing things. It's sort of like, I'm going to give you another example. We've got the anchor, because when you're connected to why you do what you do, you will not feel adrift, okay? But I'm going to give you another example about purpose. So have any of you ever had a situation where you're like near a body of water and you either have your dog or somebody else's dog, and that dog runs into the water or the pond or the river or the muddy stream or the swimming pool, and then they come out and they shake, 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 shake all over you, and the water spreads everywhere, right? I also feel that purpose is that stuff that naturally shakes off you and hits other people. So I, for example, in the exchange that you just saw with me talking with Brendan, when Brendan's around me and he's like the dog shaking wet, what you get hit with is his purpose of serving, right? It just flies from the guy because it's what he gives to the world. And when you understand that purpose is just why you're doing something and how you're showing up for it, and the way in which you uniquely do it, that's your purpose. That's it. Passion is for you. Purpose is what you give to other people. So mistake number one is that you think they're the same thing. You use the words interchangeably. You're not quite thinking about the difference and why both are so important. Confidence is a skill that you can build using simple, repetitive tasks and thinking tools, and you can start building it today. I want you to just settle in for a second, ground yourself in this moment, and I want you to think about what is something that you want to make happen this year in your life. What is the one thing that if Mel Robbins could wave her sparkly lip gloss and I could give you the next level of confidence, okay? What is that thing that you really want to create in your life for real? And write it down. I see write a book. I see retire. I see have 10 to 15 coaching clients, be a speaker, sell my art. All of it is achievable. How do I know that? Because somebody else in the world is doing it. If someone else in the world is doing what you dream of doing, you have evidence that it is possible for you. And here's what I know about your dreams. Your dreams are deeply personal. And when you have dreams that are deeply personal, that are meant for you, that pull you like an arrow is pulled towards a target, you only have two choices. You either got to figure out how to level up your confidence and start working toward it, or those dreams will haunt you. Because I personally believe, I'm writing a book about this right now, that when you're born, your dreams are woven into your DNA. They're preset. There is a life that is meant for you. And your dreams are trying to pull you toward this. And what's super, super cool about getting in touch with your dreams when it relates to confidence is that, you know, your dreams are just things that you can achieve if you work toward them. And so if you're not working toward your dreams, if you don't have your dreams already achieved, here's what I know. There's something about you that is blocked right now. And that's okay. Thinking about your dreams will haunt you. Getting out of the thinking habit and into the action habit, that is what will change your life. And so here's the next thing I want to do. I want you to now level up even more, because I bet the way that you wrote your dreams down, I bet you even shrunk it a little. I bet your self-doubt and your insecurity made you write a dream that was a little bit smaller than what you actually want, right? I know this because I do the same damn thing to myself. Of course I do. You know, I think about, you know, what my big dreams are, and I go, oh, well, you know, what do I really want? I want my next book to be a massive success. I want it to dominate the bestseller list for at least 10 weeks. That's my big, big, big dream. But what I say is, oh, I'd love to, you know, make the New York Times bestseller list. I shrink it because my self-doubt and my insecurity even starts to block me when I dream. You feel the pull of your dream, but then you say this to yourself: it will never happen for me. There's a relationship between confidence, which pushes you forward, and self-doubt, which blocks you. And this is why self-doubt is such a killer, because you know what you want. You can feel what you want. You are jealous of people that have it. You are pulled toward that thing that you want. And your doubt is blocking you by actively convincing you it won't happen for you. So let's talk a little bit about confidence, okay? First of all, I've already said it's a skill. It doesn't matter if you were born the most insecure, thumb-sucking, abused, pathetic soul of a human being. You can build the skill of confidence. It doesn't matter if you came out of the womb super ego-driven and larger than life and confident and all that stuff. You still have a lot of work to do when it comes to confidence, authentic confidence. So let me talk to you about what is the skill of confidence. My definition of confidence is not belief in self. I love evidence-based advice because I'm kind of skeptical. I looked at the research on confidence, okay? And there's really good news here. The first thing you've already learned, it's a skill. The second thing that you are going to learn that's really good is it's very simple to build the skill of confidence. And you can do it through repetitive actions every day, very simple little things that will slowly build up the reservoir of confidence. And here's the definition I want to give you of confidence. Confidence is the willingness to try. That's it. And the reason why I like this definition is because this definition is based in the research around confidence. So if you want to learn more about this, Google confidence competency loop. This is my fancy little graphic, okay? This is what we call a confidence competency loop. I did not invent this. This is something that people who research confidence for a living have created. And I've highlighted this because this is where confidence begins. It begins with the willingness to try, because I'm going to show you what ends up happening if you're the kind of person who trains yourself. Notice the words I'm using, trains. We're not going to sit around and wait for motivation. We're not going to wait for courage. We're going to manufacture those things. And this is where the 5-second rule is so transformative. All you do is in a moment where you feel doubt, insecurity, fear, anxiety, procrastination, perfectionism, PTSD, OCD, anything that you might possibly have that would rise up to block you, you simply count backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. And you got to count backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And what that will do is it will shift gears in your mind. Instead of being stuck here in the part of the brain that keeps you stuck worrying and thinking and having a bias towards overthinking and being a perfectionist, you're going to go 1, 4, or 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you're going to try. The first time you try, you will fail. That's really good news. You want to know why? You learn by failing. Do you realize that's how you've always learned? That when you were a kid, you don't remember this, but when you were learning to walk, you fell an average of 17 times an hour. And so you learn everything when you fail. Because when you fail, as much as you may think you're going to die, if you stand on a stage, I see a lot of you who want to be coaches or speakers or whatever, you're going to have to learn how to give a speech where you stutter and where your mouth gets really dry and pasty and where you get a neck rash and where you forget what you're supposed to say. You got to do all that stuff. Why? Because when you fail, you don't die. You actually gain knowledge and experience. And that's the gift of failure, because you then take that knowledge and that experience and you go right back to the next time. And then you try again. But this time when you 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, try, you're going to take your knowledge and experience with you and you're going to fail a little bit less. And what you're going to learn there, you're going to take right back to the next time that you try. You 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You push yourself to try. You gain a little bit of competency for the next time you're going to do it. And every time you gain a little bit of competency, your mastery goes up. And that's when you start to feel more self-assured. And that muscle, everybody, of trying, That is where you build the skill of confidence. I love this topic, this idea. I even wrote it down, that when there's turmoil and chaos around you, you need to be better at managing yourself.
Yes.
And this sort of emotional side of striving. And there have been many years in my life where I have been very, very, very busy, and I've gotten a lot of stuff done, but I have felt one decision away from needing to literally check myself in somewhere, because I was about to break down mentally, emotionally, physically. And for people that, like you and me, that are really interested in achieving and making an impact, you can get yourself so busy and so overworked that you're not present and you're not in control of what you're doing, and you're sure as heck are not enjoying it. And we've already done a lot of training about productivity. And productivity, in my mind, are all the things that you do, right? It's like about getting the important stuff done. And there are lots of things that I know that you know, based on the research, have a demonstrated impact on your ability to focus. Things like getting a better night's sleep, exercising and moving your body every day, removing distractions, having a really empowering morning routine that sets you up in a way that allows your day to end up being focused on the things that you care about for at least an important amount of time. Now, those are all things that if you feel like you're losing control, that you should go back to, because those are the basics: removing distractions, doubling down on your morning routine and how you set your day up so that how your day ends up is something that you're proud of. Exercising and moving your body, even if it's just getting up in the middle of the day and walking around the block for 10 minutes, and sleep. All things that have a huge difference, make a huge difference on productivity. I want to talk about the bigger things. I want to talk about the stuff from a mind, body, spirit level that not only will help you be more productive, which in my mind, being productive means that you are making progress on things that matter. See, to me, productivity isn't about being busy. You're not going to go to your grave and wish that somebody wrote on it, boy, could he or she get through a to-do list? Like, being busy, racing around, getting a ton of unimportant things done, feeling distracted and reactive, that's not the game that you want to play. Being productive, in my mind, means being so focused and confident and in control and connected to yourself that you are able to make progress on the things that matter to you, that you are able to stay focused and confident and connected to your values when the game starts to change, when life gets chaotic. This type of productivity isn't outside of you in terms of the things that you do. It's about building tools within yourself so that you can come back into your own power when life gets tumultuous or chaotic or uncertain, or when the things you've been working on don't work out. We're going to start with a tool and a habit that I call high-fiving your heart. And there's a particular reason why we're going to start with this tool. And I want you to make this a daily habit. And I'm going to explain how you do it. I'm going to explain the science. I'm going to teach you why this is essential for you to be doing every day in order to maintain focus, in order to maintain connection with yourself, and in order to build what I call body confidence. Body confidence is feeling comfortable in your own skin. Body confidence is being able to root yourself and ground yourself in your own body when life tries to hijack you. This has nothing to do with your appearance. This has to do with what it feels like to be you living your life. So high-fiving your heart is very, very simple. And first thing that I'm going to do is explain why you need to do this, okay? The reason why you need to start
incorporating a high five to your heart into your day-to-day life is because research from Dr. Judy Willis, who is one of the world's leading neuroscientists. She was with UCLA for a long time, tons of research studies. Her research proves that it is impossible for your brain to effectively focus when your nervous system is on edge. It is impossible, I'm going to say it again, for your brain to effectively focus when your nervous system is on edge. And the reason why you've got to learn how to high five your heart is because it is a science-backed tool that will switch you from a state where what's called your sympathetic nervous system. Your sympathetic nervous system, you have two nervous systems in your body. Your sympathetic nervous system is the nervous system that is activated when you're feeling anxious, when you're on edge, when your heart is racing, when you feel like the next shoe's about to drop, when you watch the news. Psychologists call it a dysregulated nervous system. And the fact of the matter is, I do not need to be a medical doctor to tell you, right now, you have a dysregulated nervous system. It would be impossible for you to have survived the last 18 months and the world that we've been living in and not wake up and feel on edge and not wake up and feel like something else is about to happen, because something else always is. Are we wearing masks? Or are we not wearing masks? Are the kids going back to school? Or are they not going back to school? Are we going to the office? Or are we not going to the office? Like, everything is changing, which puts your nervous system in a state where it's waiting for something to happen. Now, when you're in that state, it's very hard for you to change behavior. It's very hard for you to learn new things, anything. It's very hard for you to do creative work. It's very hard for you to be productive and focused and calm. And so I'm going to teach you this incredible tool that you can use at any moment when you start to feel the stress level rise. And it could be any moment. You could be texting a friend and you see the 3 dots coming up and you feel the wave. You could have just sent an email and it's a really big pitch and it's somebody you admire and you're like, oh, are they going to write back? And you feel the stress come up. It could be any moment. You could be on a plane and they say, we're going to have an emergency landing, which is a true story in one of these books. And you can feel your nervous system brace. Anytime you feel on edge, you can use the high five to the heart to activate science, to get you grounded back in your body and to flip on what's called your parasympathetic nervous system. Your parasympathetic nervous system is your calm and your cool nervous system. And this is the nervous system that you need in order to feel a calm, striving sense of productivity. If you want to feel in control, this is the fastest way to do it. And here's how you do it. We're going to do it together. This is not like something that you're going to observe. We're doing this together. Put your hand on the heart, or I've got big mitts. So I put my hands kind of right here because then it touches my heart. Now, when you put your hands here and press against your chest, what you're going to do is you're going to be stimulating what's called your vagus nerve. When you high five your heart, we're going to do it together, and then I'm going to explain the science of what's happening. First of all, we're going to take a deep breath together, okay? So here we go. Then you're going to repeat 3 sentences to yourself while you hold your hands against your heart. You're going to say, I'm going to say it and pause so then you can say it. Here we go. I'm okay. I'm safe. I'm loved. And what's going to happen is you're going to repeat that to yourself. You can say it out loud. You can say it to yourself. You can think it. I'm okay. I'm safe. I'm loved. I'm okay. I'm safe. I'm loved. And there may be some mornings that you do this 53 times. There'll be some mornings that you do it once. If you can say those 3 sentences, I'm okay, I'm safe, I'm loved, while your hands are right here, you want to know what? It's true. In this moment, despite the fact that there's all kinds of stuff going down and your nervous system is on edge, you are safe, you are okay, and you are loved. And you're actually demonstrating that to yourself, and your brain sees it.
This can be your day for personal growth. This can be that day you committed to and you remember and you go, that was the day I got myself a community. I got better coaches. I committed to making my life the absolute best that I could. This is that day. Make today your growth day. Click the button on this page and sign up right now.